Hunter Podcast. Never pass on shooter bucks, because that's just meat in the freezer. It's your tag, you hunt how you want. This is Okayest Hunter.
What up, everybody? Welcome to the Okayest Hunter Podcast. We're hanging out here in Oconomowoc, Wisconsin, in the Okayest Hunter Podcast studio, brought to you by Spartan Forge. Use code OHP for everybody we're going to talk about, but head on over to SpartanForge.ai and you can save your money or some money on an annual subscription. And one thing I want to mention about Spartan Forge,
what's that?
Is I was watching the hunting public over the weekend.
Mm-hmm.
I had some time.
Yeah.
Which is rare. And they were hanging out with the Deer Lab or Deer University. I forget which one that was, but Missouri Deer Lab, Missouri Deer University, whatever. Bunch of really smart professors that did all the deer tracking study stuff. Basically all of the data that Bill with Spartan Forge and his team have gathered to inform their model, right?
Sure.
And I just thought it was interesting because they're showing maps of basically hundreds of dots that show, oh, this is where the deer was in October. This is where the deer was in December. And you're comparing and contrasting. That's really informative to look at. You should look at that stuff. You're going to learn something. Now, just think about that times 8 years and millions of points, and then put into your cell phone. That's what Spartan Forge's deer movement predictability stuff is. And they're talking about the average deer by and large, right? And then jam-packed it with a bunch of other tools, military-backed satellite imagery, UAV imagery. It's insane. So I hope that's a good explanation of what that is.
Seems pretty on point, I would say.
But those studies are really cool to see.
They are.
For the record. The one deer that they were tracking was very, it was in October, nowhere near this one tiny parcel, this tiny, maybe 1 acre square, wood lot inside of an ag field. And then come December, that's the only spot he really was. And it was just this tiny, tiny spot. And it was really overlooked. So it was cool to see that episode with the hunting public talk about that kind of stuff.
Neat.
Speaking of hunting public, I believe Vector Custom Shop supplies arrows to those guys. So it's kind of cool to be on the same
they do
shipping list as those guys. We get all of their arrows also. And they're really great, honestly, and they have obviously new products that have come out. They keep selling out every time they release them.
Yeah,
but
they added a lighter arrow right around that 500 grain type arrow, the ZMR.
The Zimmer?
Yep, the Zimmer. And then they are changing up the front end components on the HMR, the hammer.
That's right.
So,
do you know what they're changing about that?
I think it's going to be something similar to the one-piece design as it's on the Zimmer.
Wow, we should do some fun videos of the one piece design versus.
Oh no, I don't want to picture you in a banana hammock.
Yeah, I did a really funny TikTok of this dude jumping off a pier into one of those lily pads, and then it just ripped in the middle. And I was like, well, this is what it looks like when you use Vector Custom Shop arrow. You get a full pass through.
Yeah, full pass through,
no matter what. So use code OHP. You're going to save 10% off over there. I can't remember if it's free shipping or 10% off the product, but nonetheless, you'll save some money. So please use our stuff. It's for your benefit. Latitude Outdoors, good friends of ours. We're running their saddles. We're going to be running their, I think, sticks and platforms potentially this season.
We'll see.
So I'm excited for that. Use code OHP for 20% off on their stuff. These are good discounts, 25%, 10%, 20%, and then Go Wild. If you're not on Go Wild or if you're sick of social media everywhere else or getting your wrist slapped by censorship or, whatever, or PETA's commenting on your stuff and throwing blood on you.
Want another social media platform to mess around with.
You can log your podcast listens over there. Say, hey, I listen to Okayest Hunter podcast, but they have a shopping feature and commerce kind of integrated into their social platform. It's really cool because
you can buy everything from broadheads to
boots,
sweatshirt.
And so if you tag, you can tag,
Fishing
I'm using
gear.
this, that, and the other thing, Greg. And if you're like, well, gosh, I want to use what Greg's using because he's the best hunter in the world,
which I am not.
You can buy it right from there. That's subjective, but 10% off over there if you use code OHP, and then go follow Okayest Hunter on the Go Wild platform. We do have our own page. You can follow me, Greg, Derek. We're all We
The
all
whole
hang out
clown
there.
posse will be there.
Yeah, tag us and stuff. We'll get notified and jump in. So I don't know, man. You've been hanging trail cams. I heard that a tree fell down in front of one of yours.
Yeah, got a few hung up. Not as many as I'd like. Just too much stuff going on. Vacation's coming up. I'm gonna be running away for that. So I kind of need to take care of some other things before I go playing around. But
Is that what you're doing last weekend, hanging trail cams?
no,
Can't come to the podcast, guys. I gotta get stuff done before vacation.
Yeah, I was getting stuff done before vacation. Some garage cleaning. It had to be done.
Garage cleans the pain. Well, we do have a guest with us, so I won't make her suffer in the backstage any longer. Courtney Nicolson, thanks for joining us on the OKS Hunter podcast. I hope we didn't set the bar too low. But you're the Associate Director of Communications for the Sportsmens Alliance, and we're happy to have you today.
Thanks. It's fun to be here.
Well, yeah, that's good. I don't know if you have a drink. I don't know if I told you to go grab a drink. Not that I'm ordering you around, but you do have
to be told.
Good. It's good to see you. It's good to meet you. We've been chatting a little bit about some of your endeavors outdoors as it relates to writing, but you've been around the whole country essentially, and you've been in this world for quite some time. Why don't you unpack that for us a little bit?
Sure. Yeah. So I'm originally from New England. I'm from Massachusetts, and I moved to New York City, of all places, to go to college. Wanted to work in the television industry, and so went to college, graduated, started doing just that. Worked for a couple different production companies and post-production companies on a lot of DIY shows, a lot of shows for HGTV. I worked on the second season of Swamp People doing post-production.
Oh my gosh, what?
Yeah. And then got a job at Sportsman Channel, and had never hunted before, but grew up fishing, camping, being generally outdoorsy, but no one in my family hunted. So yeah, I worked there for about a year and just got really curious about hunting and said, I think I'm going to try this whole hunting thing. And I took hunter education in the Bronx. It was actually at a substance abuse treatment facility center.
Wow.
With chain link fence on the windows. And it was really unclear when you were signing in, which you were signing in for. There was one waiting room.
Sounds pretty safe.
Oh, it was hilarious. So there were TVs mounted to the ceiling that said do not change to Maury. So it was pretty funny. So took hunter ed and bought a shotgun, and actually the first time I ever went hunting was with a girl about my age who lived in upstate New York, and someone gave me her contact. Actually it was Jim Ronquist at R&T Calls, was like, do you know where this town is? And I said, I have no idea. It was 5 hours north of New York City. So I called this girl out of the blue and said, Jim gave me your phone number. Can I go turkey hunting with you? And that was the beginning of the end. So that was 12 years ago. So
wow. So
yeah,
turkey hunting is a great gateway drug to get into hunting.
It is, for sure. Yeah. So New York State is such a sleeper state for hunting. It's absolutely phenomenal. There's this much as New York City, and then literally it's a 6-hour drive to the Canadian border, or to drive to, Buffalo, Lake Erie. So there's a lot in New York that's phenomenal. Lots of farm country, lots of nice people, lots of lakes, lots of rivers.
Yeah,
big deer when you can find them. Some of the places have antler restrictions, some don't. Finger Lakes are awesome. Duck hunting, trout fishing, just everything. So total sleeper state.
So you got hooked with turkey hunting out of the gate, basically, and then it sounds like what hunts have you been on? What else have you done? What species, what states? It sounds like you went deeper than most people ever would, which sounds like you definitely got the bug.
Yeah. I've been everywhere. I think I've hunted in 19 or 20 different states.
Wow.
For everything. So pretty much everything. So deer, mule deer, elk, hogs, turkeys.
That's a lot. How do you,
yeah,
how do you, like afford that. I assume to some degree you have to kind of match, like align your lifestyle, like with your living a little bit, like PTO and how to afford out of state tags and stuff. These are big questions that people ponder. Like, how do I hunt out of state? What does an out of state tag cost? How do I get there? What do I do with the meat? How do I cross borders? Like, how do I bring my
You got
firearm?
all the answers, man, dude.
Would
Broke as
seem-
shit. Lots of sleeping in your car. Lots of making friends, and yeah, lots of. You can. I don't think I have it here with me. Walmart sells a $5 30-can insulated cooler tote bag. You can fit an entire doe, deboned and frozen, in that bag and
Sweet.
carry it on a plane. So, and
really?
it'll stay frozen from Wyoming to Michigan. So
We got
from
a
Cody,
link product.
from Cody, Wyoming to Detroit, and then a 2-hour drive up to central Michigan. So
Nice.
you don't, yeah, budget is, if you ever want to talk about budget, that's where it's at. So
Yeah,
you
there
can
is
get
like,
an out-of-state doe tag. You can get an out-of-state doe antelope tag in Wyoming for $45.
really.
Yeah.
Worth it just to be able to go.
Well, you can't really draw them anymore. They cut the tags like
Yeah, Wyoming's under
a
a
lot
huge.
last year.
Yeah, they're undergoing a huge change in their out of state tag drawing. That whole deal.
And their
is-
pronghorn population. So it's definitely, there's a good reason why they cut. I mean, they cut in-state tags too. Like the pronghorn aren't doing so good there. So, but
Interesting.
yeah. So yeah, just kind of.
What's your?
I don't know.
mean, what do you think your favorite species was, and then like why? Why was that one your favorite?
Ducks.
Ducks are a blast.
Yeah.
Literally, figuratively.
Yeah. Ducks, I think because they're so beautiful. Everyone would pick on me whenever I'd shoot a new species. Like I'd be in the blind and I'd just be like rolling it over, just looking at it. And they're just so beautiful. Like each one's so unique, like the bill color, tertial feather color, feet color, like, you got like bufflehead with their bubblegum pink feet, blue bills, shovelers, like everything. So really
It's the
cool.
one thing about duck hunting that the one time I went, just the sheer number of species.
Wait, did you say one time you've duck hunted?
He went once.
I
and it
went
wasn't
once.
with
It
me.
wasn't successful. Although, it's not like the person I went didn't try. Like he's a listener to the show. He's a friend. He is a duck guide, or he was. I don't know if he's still doing that or not, but he brought the decoys, and I think the ducks just had left that area. The day previous, weather conditions, whatever. But you said like shovel head, and but like there's
Yeah,
all these
shoveler.
teal, and I'm like, I don't. How the hell are you knowing what that is when it's just flying over? I can't.
Lots of pictures and enough time out in the wild watching those birds.
It's
Yeah.
nuts. And then like, oh, well, those aren't good, or these ones are good eating and these ones aren't, and you can only shoot so many of that one versus this one. And I'm like, how are you identifying? I just couldn't understand. Like that's a whole nother world. You could
Takes a
nerd
long
out on
time.
stuff. Yeah, that's it. It takes
Yeah.
probably time, I suppose. So one time isn't going to cut it. Greg's done plenty of duck hunting. Is Tyler? He's done a lot of pheasant hunting.
He's done
a lot
more
of
pheasant
waterfowl.
hunting. He's done some waterfowl, but not to the extent of other people.
Yeah.
I love pheasant hunting. I love grouse hunting. I love dove hunting.
Yep, all that's good stuff.
Everything.
I've only been pheasant hunting once too.
You'll hear me say it every time. If you're struggling to learn how to shoot a deer on the run, if you're involved in a group that does a lot of pushing during gun season, if you struggle shooting deer on the run, go out and bird hunt. You're going to learn how to lead and shoot something on the move. It's great practice.
I've done my fair
That was
share.
the interesting thing. I had, like, when I had started hunting, I never lived in a state where people did pushes. So that was interesting, like hunting in states where you can do that.
Yeah,
So-
and here it's very
And
commonplace.
like communicate, like in Colorado, you can't do that. You can't group hunt,
Sure.
communicate, and use walkie-talkies or apps or anything. So
Sure.
it's pretty cool to learn all the do's and don'ts of different states. It's complicated.
Mm-hmm.
So duck hunting, duck are your favorite species. Do you have like a favorite hunt that you'd been on? I know that might be hard because you've been all over, but like what contributed to, like, I'm asking because you've done so much more than us, so I'm really curious to see what's going to spark my interest.
I'm kind of like the, jack of all trades, master of none. So I've definitely realized that at some point, like my friends who only bow hunt, like they're exceptional. And I go to league night and I'm like, I don't want to shoot. You're like tweet where it's just like turn away while I shoot my bow for the first time in
That's right.
a
Yes.
year or two. Like that's me. So yeah, I feel like I do a little bit of everything. So it's not embarrassing that I'm not good at anything, but I also have extreme ADD. So um so many, probably my two favorite duck hunts I've been on. One was I went down to Texas like 2 years ago, and it was exceptional because it was warm. So hunting in, I think it was January maybe, and it was super, super warm and not, it not being -11. And I could actually feel my fingers. That was a lot of fun. And we just shot like I shot my first redhead, like just like gorgeous, gorgeous birds, like beautiful scenery. I shot my first pintail and it was just really cool. We were hunting in like this weird habitat, like it was like not mangroves or like something like that.
Okay.
It's my first time on an airboat.
Marsh.
Like it was just wild. So yeah, I don't know what it was. So it was just totally foreign to me to be on an airboat and going to like sit in this like weird jungle marsh, like really, really cool. Um, and then I think it was like New Year's Day or the day after New Year's this past year, hunting sea ducks in Boston Harbor, like staring at the Boston lighthouse or whatever. And yeah, it was my first time doing like a layout boat hunt. So laying in like a little flying saucer and watching the sun come up, and you're like, you hear the waves like licking like at your sides, like when you're laying in like a pool and like the water's going in and out of your ears. It's like that's what it sounds like.
Yep.
Really, really cool. I threw
That's
my back out and I was like laid up for the next 2 days because I realized like you can't turn all the way like this and shoot a duck behind you. So yeah, I kind of ruined I think that was a couple days before Christmas. That's what it was. Cause on Christmas Day, I was like hobbling around the house, like carrying casserole dishes. And everyone's like, what's wrong with you? I'm like, I'm hurt. Everyone's like, she did this duck hunting. Don't feel bad for her. So
Yeah. You can't have any sympathy, unfortunately. Go figure.
that's
What
a,
it,
no regrets.
that's a bucket list hunt really for a lot of duck hunters, is to be able to go out and do a layout hunt for sea ducks, especially if you're looking to get an eider, king eider, or scouter or something like that on the
Yeah.
East Coast. I mean, we have it here in the Great Lakes, Green Bay, and a few of the other places along the shoreline here where guys do go out, and old squaw are probably the most coveted trophy here. But it's a pretty awesome hunt to be able to partake in.
what are you doing
It's pretty
with,
cool.
I was gonna say, what are you doing with sea duck? Like for food, like you mentioned that you like to cook, and I think you said that off air. But I'm curious with all the different types of wild game that you're bringing, especially with like the waterfowl. Um, how are you preparing this? Do you have like some go-to recipes, some traditional recipes, some favorite recipes? Like your freezer's just got to be packed with good stuff, right?
Yeah. Yeah, my freezer unfortunately is empty right now with moving. So, but yeah, kind of a bummer. But yeah, a little bit of everything. It depends how delicious they are. So, I mean, if you get like a delicious corn-fed mallard from the middle of the country that's never touched salt water, like just put it on the grill and cook it super rare and salt and pepper and it's perfect. Or, wood duck and same thing. But yeah, sea ducks are a little rough. Some of them are really rough. So you can make them in a jerky, you can marinate them, smoke them. Pastrami works really well. So yeah, a little bit of everything.
It's a good
You can
idea.
grind them.
Yeah.
I know.
Corned duck is good. Corned goose. I like goose. Weirdly enough, I don't really like duck. So
Yeah, some of the folks on TikTok are saying duck hunting is fun. I just don't care for the meat on duck or goose. They said grouse and turkey are their birds of choice
Sure.
for consuming.
Well, and duck,
I don't like wild turkey, really. Goose is my favorite. I mean, goose is, if you
you could do
cook
a lot
goose
with
right,
goose.
you can do anything with goose. So, like, anyone I know who doesn't like goose, like, when have you had goose? And they're like, well, my grandma made like a Christmas goose once.
With burgundy wine or something.
Like, cooked it like a turkey, like full
Yeah.
on cooked it, and it turns gray and it smells horrific. And I was like, okay, well, it looks, and it essentially is grass-fed beef. Like, if you look at a Canada goose breast, it's very purple. It looks very much like a grass-fed, cow. And why wouldn't it? It's eating grass. So I find that it doesn't really have a strong flavor either way.
Yeah.
And that's what I do. Coat it with Montreal steak seasoning. I put it in a cast iron pan, sear the shit out of it, pop it in the oven, cook it super rare, slice it thin. It's excellent. Like, I fooled so many people into thinking that it was beef. Duck, I like a lot. Like, it does have that irony flavor.
Yeah, more like
Um,
liver.
yeah. So,
Are you,
but
s-
I
you say you're
like,
searing that goose and then putting it in the oven, or the other way around?
I usually sear it and then put it in the oven. So, like, get it nice and like charred and crusty on the outside, and then put it in the oven to get because it's, they're so thick, you can't just sear it like it's raw on the inside. So,
I've had like one of the, what the hell is the damn thing called? I don't know. We have like an air fryer that does everything. I don't even know what it is, but it has a sous vide feature. It's not like the sous vide. I don't know if that's like a style or brand or whatever. But I know you can stick like a sous vide into any basically, kettle, and they'll heat the water up. And I've done the sous vide with venison, and then seared it afterwards in the
reverse
cast
sear.
iron. And that
Yeah.
was good. Like it, because I couldn't mess that up really. Like,
Yeah, you can't mess it up. Yeah,
yeah,
CVs are awesome. They're really good. I have one of the Innova ones, and they're friggin' phenomenal. It's nice too, because it's like you can use it essentially to slow cook something. So, I butcher all my own meat and I vacuum seal it already. And so all you have to do is drop it into the hot water, and it's got like the app and everything. And so if you want to slow cook something, it's perfect. So,
then it'll
um,
keep it at that temperature. You won't have to worry about it like
yeah, you
overcooking or.
can't overcook it. Yeah, it's perfect. So, yeah,
It's
I
a
love
weird
the
concept to grasp if you have not like explored it. Tom DeCray just made a comment here, and I know Tom's big on
skin on mallard. Yep.
skin on
Oh,
mallard breast in a hot skillet till the skin crisps up in its own fat. Cooked rare is
Yeah,
awesome.
it'll actually
I
render
can,
out some
I
of the
can
fat.
smell that right
Yeah,
now.
it sounds delicious. Like
Perfect.
one of my favorite recipes. I've done it with duck and goose. Um, if you beat them up too bad, you're just taking parts out of them. You're not keeping them whole. But I've deboned all the meat, and balsamic vinegar is a real good marinade. And then add some like Mrs. Dash garlic in there, and then get your coals going after you get all the meat in a bag to marinate for 20 minutes to an hour or so, and just do it rare on the grill. The goose tenders, or you take the goose breast and slice it up into pieces about the size of the tenders. And I've had people say it doesn't taste like goose and it doesn't taste like duck, it tastes like beef, or it tastes like pork, or anything but what they thought it was.
Is
Yeah.
anybody doing anything with smokers with this stuff? Like I have, I call it the smoking meat for dummies. I bought a Pit Boss.
The
You
problem
know,
with smoking, something so rare as like a duck breast, is it will turn into jerky. There's not
Hmm,
enough there unless you marinate it in some olive oil.
okay. I haven't really,
Yeah. I've
experimented,
never
but
bought a smoker. I'm too cheap. So the only thing I smoke is like if I'm doing pastrami, and I'll just bring it to a friend's house.
Yeah, and I do all
But
my smoking on a Weber grill. I indirect cook it. I get it to a certain temp, and if I got to add coals, I do. But I'll throw, when I do salmon fillets, like what we catch on Lake Michigan, those are usually done with applewood chunks, and
mhm.
just let them go at 200 for as long as I can keep them on there until the flames start to die, or until the heat starts to go away. By then, it's pretty well set to go.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
got like
smoked fish is pretty damn good. Like we got a lot of like bluefish and striper out here.
Yep.
They're really good smoked mackerel.
man, you guys are
Pretty
talking
good.
about stuff that I just have not had much exposure to. But to the point of like the smoker, it's one of those pellet grills, right? You set the temperature, it stays at that temperature, and it just kind of does its thing. It's basically like an outdoor oven that uses wood for fuel.
Well,
I've
or
only ever had electric smokers.
yeah, it's electric. I mean, you can get the
It
little.
Yeah,
is.
turn it on, like foolproof, cheap.
Yep, plug it in. It does its thing. You put the tray of wood shavings over the electric element and let it go.
Hmm.
It's real simple.
I did some I don't remember what I did. Some sort of pulled pork or whatever, and it's good. I think it's leveled up my ability to cook game in our household, and to the tune that my wife will actually like it and eat it and say, "Wow, this is the best ABC whatever the hell I've ever had," and she's never said that kind of stuff before, so that's nice. I'm like, look
Smoked turkey breast is really, really good. I really don't care for wild turkey. It dries out so quickly, and just
Yeah.
the smell when you're cutting it up is just horrific. Like I
Yeah.
raised chickens one summer and I was like, I would never do that again. The smell is just weird. And wild turkeys have that smell. Pheasants have that smell when you're
Yep.
butchering pheasants. Oh, the smell of the sponge. Oh,
There's a reason they call them foul.
gross.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, the smell is just so strange. So yeah, I never get that smell out of my head when I'm cooking them. But even pheasant, I mean, pheasant is just phenomenal, like so tender, so good, but it just dries out instantly. So I've always been like a dark meat kind of like person for like turkey, chicken, whatever. And so yeah, it's like I usually will do like a lemon piccata with pheasant. Grouse are phenomenal. Grouse are probably my favorite, kind of light meat bird to eat.
John Selflu,
So
who was here a couple weeks ago in studio, says get a sous vide, and
I
then
got one. Oh yeah.
Tom jumped
Yeah,
back.
it's cool. Like all the comes with, it's not too expensive on Amazon. They have the little plastic thing you put it in, and then there's a lid on it so it keeps the heat in, which I don't know, you don't really have to do, but you can get the little racks that keep everything submerged inside. So it's fun. I'm definitely when I first started hunting, I remember my first deer that I shot, I asked all my friends, I was like, what do I do with this thing? Like, how do I cook it? And they gave me this like folded piece of computer paper, like, here's a recipe for deer stew. And I was like, what is this? And it pretty much was, can of cream of mushroom, can of corn, can of beans, like packet of gravy. I was like, oh, is there anything else to do with this? They're like, soak it in Italian salad dressing for 3 days
No.
and
No,
then
they-
wrap it in bacon. I was like, this is terrible. And I remember when I was working at Sportsman Channel, we also owned like 15 magazines, and we got a lot of books. And so we got an advance like editor's copy of Hank Shaw's book, Buck Buck Moose. And I remember asking the editors, I was like, can I read that? Can I see that? What is that? And it totally blew my mind. It was like the first time I had ever read anything that was like, here's how to turn venison into actual food, an actual dish, and God forbid gourmet food or international food. So that's what I love is I like eating a lot of like food from different countries and stuff like that. And especially if you have people who don't want to eat wild game, or they think it's gamey, or they're just not interested, adding a lot of different spices is really smart. So, if you're doing Cuban food and you're adding cumin, or you're doing Middle Eastern food and you're adding like all these different spices, it's really, really cool. So, if I ever write a cookbook in my spare time, it would be a like wild game, easy international cooking cookbook, because that's a lot of what I do. Like I do a lot of
Thing, right? Like that.
kebabs.
Okay. No, that
Yeah.
you should go on. I mean, I'm happy that you're on our podcast, and I'm certainly this is a great talk track. But if you haven't been on the Huntivore podcast with Nick Otto, you guys would have a great time chatting.
I know
I mean,
that
that's his whole
name.
thing. He's such a fun dude, anyways. But his podcast is all about cooking wild game. He taught like not that he taught me like personally, but I learned because of his podcast. I don't know if we were on his or he was on ours or one of the two. To put mayonnaise on around the meat because it creates that layer. I don't remember what it was the recipe, but I tried it and it worked. It was like you're using that to help sear it, and
Interesting.
I've
Oh,
heard that
he's a
from.
Michigander. All right. I
Yep.
trust him.
Yep.
Yeah,
He's
he's a
trustworthy.
nice guy.
He's a good guy.
All right.
But yeah, anyway, check out Huntivore podcast. He's got a lot of good episodes, and I'll tag him on this so he can like sync up with you or be happy to do an intro or whatever. But no, I mean, you mentioned working for the Sportsmens channel. I remember those guys. They were headquartered out of New Berlin, Wisconsin, if I recall. And
Yep.
I
Spent
was
a
like,
lot of
man,
time there.
I was like, I wish I could get a job there, but I didn't have any marketable skills at that time. And it's just didn't make any sense. They got consumed by a couple other players right at this point. And I know some of the folks that left that and started other stuff. And, to that end, though, you talked about some of the magazines and, obviously we engaged through some of the writing stuff that I think we're reaching out about. Who have you all written for, or you're still actively writing? And it sounds like recipes are definitely a forte of yours. What are some of the things you're writing about?
I write a little bit about everything. I started writing a lot for Women's Outdoor News, and specifically kind of women-centric hunting stories. And in the last 5 years or so, there's been an explosion of like a lot of different women-owned companies and social groups and groups that like organize hunts and things like that. But Women's Outdoor News was really the first. And so Barbara Baird and Michelle Serino are just like the OGs of women in hunting and media. And so I really enjoyed writing for them. Really, the first thing I worked on was a column called She Guides. And it was a monthly column, and I interviewed different female hunting guides. So that was a lot of fun. I did it for about a year and a half, and then sadly, as expected, ran out of guides to interview.
Well, that's cool, I suppose.
It's a small pool, so so I kind of did a lot of writing for them. Started doing like gear reviews, things like that, and yeah. So working for a Sportsman channel. So we were owned. I started there in 2011. We were owned by a company called Intermedia Outdoors. And at that time, we owned a production company called Warm Springs Productions in Montana. We owned like 15 different magazines. So all the Game and Fish magazines, Guns and Ammo, Rifle Shooter, Wildfowl, Gun Dog, Bow Hunter, Peterson's, kind of the list goes on.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so Handgun Magazine. And so I started writing for them. I started doing things for Guns and Ammo. I started shooting 3-gun really briefly. Started writing articles about that and just a lot of intro articles. So, I'm an adult onset hunter. And yeah, I just kind of learned everything all at once. And so my goal was just to make it a really welcoming, informative place. Like, I believe there's no stupid questions, or maybe there are, but I ask them anyways. So just kind of getting into hunting and learning it all at once. So yeah, so I've written for a little bit of everyone, and a lot of like the magazines from nonprofits. And so I wrote for a Delta Waterfowl magazine, Mule Deer Foundation. So yeah.
You're
A little bit
known.
of everything.
People have probably read something you've written at some point along the way, at least since maybe 2011, right? That's a long time.
Maybe. I don't know.
So, like, that's not what I'm saying, right? I'm just, you're seasoned. You've definitely, you're in the space, you're in the category. A lot of folks, that's probably a whole nother topic of like, how do you get into the outdoors? And writing is, a lot of folks can start to do it. And I'd argue that today is easier than 2011 because Grammarly did not exist then,
True. Yeah.
you know,
Um,
having a
yeah,
built-in
it's a lot of
filter.
fun. And even now, like there's so much, everyone wants content.
Yep.
So all about content. And so it's really, a lot of people ask me advice all the time. How do I, become a writer? How do I break into this industry? And, you know, usually the first thing I ever advise people is, what are the brands you admire? What are the brands you use? Look in your closet. Like, what do you purchase? What do you like? What do you buy year after year when your boots wear out? When, you need new arrows, what are you buying? Um, and then look at their website, look at their social media, look at their newsletters. Do you admire the content that they're putting out? Do you admire the writing that they're putting out? Are they finding writers, and personalities or whatever that you like and you align with and you think are authentic? And after that, just reach out and contact them. So you'd be surprised, a lot of websites that you click on their blog and their last post is from 3 years ago. Why? Because I don't know, maybe the person in charge of that left. Maybe they ran out of budget. Maybe they don't know what to do next. Maybe literally no one's thought about it. So, if you're looking to make content, whether it's to sell, whether it's to, make network or promote your own brand, like just start with the brands that you like and you admire, and go from there and see where the need is. Go to their website, look in their catalog. Do they have stories? Are they looking for stories? So yeah.
That's good advice. That's because that's from a different perspective than I'm used to. I'm not a writer, and I've tried my hand at it, but it's not
Well,
something I'm strong or confident with. So it's a very different angle. And a lot of folks are good at writing. I think play to your strengths. There's three modalities of communication. It's the written word, it's videos and pictures. I'd lump those two together, and it's audio. It's very
mhm,
clear where I'm comfortable, right? It's in audio. I can talk all day. But writing, that's challenging. Video is hard. Video is also like, it's a
yeah, it's
lot of
hard.
work to
It
to
is.
film, to produce, to like cut it all up. There's a lot of work. Writing is a lot of work too, but there's a lot of different degrees of writing. If you're pumping out a 600 word article versus a whole piece or a couple page editorial for a magazine, on some topic that you decided to research all on your own, and to get a story where it's real journalistic kind of stuff, that's very different. So there's a spectrum there of what you could probably start to tackle. Not everything needs to be the latter, but certainly there's an on ramp there that could exist. And some people are really good with their words, like Mark Kenyon. Look at him. He got his start by writing first, and then he went into podcasting, and then he did video stuff. So he was hitting on all of those different pillars of content, so to speak. But he's still good with his words. He still writes a lot.
He's got good editors too.
Oh, does he? Yeah, now he does. Yeah, he's probably using. He probably never had to use Grammarly a day in his life. I'm just so bad at grammar. And so now you're at Sportsmen's Alliance. Like, what, short of the daily duties, that's not what I'm looking for here. But like, what are some of the things that you guys are up to over there that are helping the hunting community, and some of the like welcoming stuff that you'd mentioned that like kind of was how you got your start. I like that modality a lot. That's something that we play heavily on, is being welcoming to people.
Yeah, so we were founded in 1977 in Columbus, Ohio, and really we were born out of, there was a ballot initiative there that was really detrimental to the hunters, and a bunch of really smart, really passionate, kick-ass hunters got together, and trappers, and fought this ballot initiative and succeeded, and they banded together and they started Sportsmen's Alliance. And so, from the beginning, we've always had support from kind of really major, organizations like Cabela's, and it's really just kind of grown and progressed from there. So it's always been a very small organization. It's always been based in Columbus. Our whole staff works there except for myself and my boss, who lives in Washington State. And we kind of, it's interesting. So my job, I work in the communications department, and my job is to tell the world the great work that we're doing. And so, like any nonprofit, we're really good at the work we do. We're really good at making a change and hopefully making the world a better place. But we're really bad at bragging about ourselves. And so that's kind of what my position's about. And so when I joined the company, I was like, wow, like I can't believe all these things that you've done. And, I had heard of Sportsmen's Alliance. I'd been a member, I think, on and off for a couple of years, but kind of really didn't know their full history. And so from like, we wrote all of the anti-hunter harassment laws, like that went into pretty much every state in the country. And so we work in all 50 states and at the federal level. So everything from individual state issues to ballot initiatives to federal cases, and U.S. Fish and Wildlife, lawsuits that are ongoing, endangered species, things that are going on, delisting, relisting. So, yeah, we do a little bit of everything.
And you guys are based out of Ohio, so I'm assuming there's a pretty big, impact that happens and permeates or like ripples out from there. I didn't realize you guys had such a heavy hand in some of those things either.
And that's never
Yeah.
ending.
Yeah, it's never ending. So, there's states where you can say, oh, I've got a serious sunset going on. There's some states where you can say like, okay, we never have to worry about hunting in this state or anything like that, but you'd be surprised. And so we do a lot of stuff with trapping and then a lot of dog related bills. So we kind of, we take the hard stance. So our logo is actually kind of supposed to be a spear. Our arrow mountaintop is actually kind of a spear. So our organization is really the tip of the spear for all the other NGOs. So we kind of take the hard stance. We do a lot of the legislative work, the lobbying, and things like that. And then we work with all of our partner organizations, Rocky Mountain Elk Foundation, SCI, Congressional Sportsmen's Foundation. But yeah, we all work together to
I was going to ask
do the research, doing the lobbying and everything. So
yeah, I was going to ask how you guys, complement some of the other organizations that exist. I mean, there's BHA, there's National Deer
BHA,
Alliance,
yep.
there's SCI, for hunters. There's
mhm.
so many, and even like the local DNRs, right? At least where we're at, the Wisconsin DNR, they hold hearings where the public can join and be a part of that and have a voice that's heard and so forth. And the number of bills that are being passed in just like the tiny county that we're in, Waukesha County, Wisconsin, of like bills being introduced to try to take certain things away. It's like, holy shit, what is going on?
Mhm.
And how do people become more aware of this stuff? And for you guys to have tentacles that dive into all of these different nuances and different state legislators and things like that, or legislations. I'm talking about shit I don't know. So if I'm saying the wrong words, of course, correct me. But there's a lot of things happening. We had Brad Luttrell's a friend of mine with Go Wild, and he did an episode with us. I think it was titled like "Is Our Culture Being Deleted?" And he talked about we're losing in the polls. And there's things, he said, it's not the death of 1,000 cuts. It's like, it's a big blow and it's happening right now. He urges people to sign up for organizations like yours to make an impact and a difference. So it is a tumultuous time right now. And social media, at least in the digital marketing realm where I sit, things are being stripped from ad platforms. You can't exclude PETA any longer for ad targeting. You can't target the audience under hunting season any longer. There's things like that happening. So it's happening in a lot of different corners of the world, whether that's in politics or even like the digital landscape, things coming out of Silicon Valley. It's very interesting. There's probably too much to know or to articulate, but I wonder, what are some of the things that people can be doing? What should we be doing? Where should we be going? How do we become involved as concerned hunters that want to like protect our heritage and legacy, right?
Picking up the phone and talking to your representatives, that's the biggest thing.
But what am I going to say to
Mhm.
that guy or gal? Like, hey,
BHA had a canned thing that you could literally read off to the representative's office. And yeah, it sounded canned like you were reading, but it got across the point where, hey, we want you to do something. We know something's going on here. We don't like it. Please go, reassess what you're doing.
And there's
So
enough.
I just recently moved, and literally I came home and there was this on my door.
What does that say for the people that are listening that have no idea what that is?
Oh, it's a kind of door hang tag about electing a local councilman for I live in a city, so it's a city councilman in Ward 14 where I live. I can call this guy tomorrow and ask him what his stance is about sportsmen's rights, how he feels about hunting, how he feels about gun rights, what his stance is. And that's really the first step. So if you go on our website or any of the other, NGOs that you listed, if you don't know, who your senator is, if you don't know who your congressman is, if you don't know who your local officials are, you need to know. So you can go to our website. If you go to our Legislative Action Center, you can type in your address and you can find them. Give them a call. Go to their office. It's a little harder now with COVID, but I lived in Colorado for a long time, and when Colorado was trying to pass the CORE Act, which was really, it's a, outdoor recreation, kind of package that was, really important to hunters. I went and I made an appointment to meet with my representatives and say, I went and I wrote a whole thing. And I said, this is why the CORE Act is important to me. And I hope you support it and everything like that. And she said, I plan to support it and I will support it. And thank you for coming down and, speaking to me. So that's really the first step. Like, if you don't know who your local representatives are, find out, call them, email them, and ask them, what is your stance on hunting? How do you feel about sportsmen? And get to know them. So, the next time you have an issue in your state, so, Rhode Island is actually going through a lot of kind of anti-sportsman bills in the last year. And that's important.
New Jersey.
Yeah. Rhode Island, New Jersey, Massachusetts. I just moved from Massachusetts. It's like they have a coastal discharge ban every year they try to pass. It would pretty much eliminate duck hunting. So, call up your local representative and say, how do you feel about this? Will you entertain this next year? Will you vote for it? How will you vote?
And just for some like, fodder here, I'm assuming at some point you've probably run into people that like don't share the same value or maybe aren't aligned with that. I got into quite the argument with our mayor about a road that they're punching through a wetland. And, it took a lot for me to not like reach across and punch a guy in the face because he was being a jackass. That's a whole different story. But, if they're not agreeing, it can, at least in that experience, it was very obvious what that guy's stance was. And he had no, it's a scene from Wedding Crashers. Like, you'll say anything to make this happen. Like, I was like, geez, man, you're like, all right, I know what I'm dealing with now. But punching someone in the face is not an amicable way to deal with this stuff. So, blood on my mouth is better than what I'd say to some people. What's your recommendation if they aren't? It's just, I'm just not going to vote for them when their ballot's up. Like, I'm going to, seek out other candidates or what have you.
That's it.
Pretty much. Yeah. So I find like education goes a long way. And so a lot of times, like when, I just moved 2 weeks ago, like I will go meet my representatives. I bring a copy of our magazine, the Sportsman's Advocate, with me. Like, it's got a lot of information in it, like real information about hunting, about fishing, about sportsmen. Most of the time, a lot of these bills that are introduced, people don't even know what they're introducing. So a lot of times how a bill gets introduced is someone's constituent from their district will call them and say, I live on the coast and I'm really sick of these duck hunters waking me up every morning and it's wrong, and make them go away. And they'll file a petition, or they'll convince them to propose bill. And then it goes from there. And so a lot of times, like so we have our whole government affairs department, which speaks a language that I definitely don't speak.
Mm-hmm.
Their main goal when someone introduces a bill, sometimes they have no idea even what they've done. They've got a constituent that's like chatting in their ear and they're like, do this for me. And then they propose it. And so sometimes we call them and we say, like, do you realize how this would impact hunters? And sometimes they do, and sometimes they don't. If you don't hunt, you don't think about hunters.
It's
when I
hard to.
wasn't a hunter, I didn't think about hunters. Like if you asked me when I was 18 what I thought about hunting, I have no idea what I would have said. I didn't know a hunter.
Yeah.
I
No,
didn't know
that's
I
interesting.
didn't know
Not to
one
say that you
hunter.
have like a bad opinion. You might just not have one at all. And
Yeah. So
if
that's
it's
kind
like
of
out
the
of
thing.
sight, out
Like,
of mind, that's a good point,
yeah.
because I think we often think if you're not with us, you're against us. But some people are like, I didn't even know I should be thinking of you at
Yeah.
all. You know, that's a
So
good point to make. I'm thank you for.
yeah. So I teach hunter education, and the first lead instructor I ever taught with, he was like, there's hunters and then there's anti-hunters. So hunters, roughly make up like 10% of the population, probably more like 4 or 5. But he would always say 10. And then, anti-hunters are maybe 10%. And he's like, what is that other 80%? And everyone in class would sit there and say, well, I don't know. We're like, they're non-hunters. They're not hunters. They're not anti-hunters. They're just non-hunters. And he'd say, do you think you could convince someone who is really anti-hunting to become a hunter? And we're like, no. They're like, could an anti-hunter convince you to stop hunting? We're like, absolutely not. He's like, so the people in the middle who don't hunt, who don't think about hunting, who don't know a hunter, those are the people we're trying to impact. So when you talk about being a good sportsman and being ethical and being presentable, don't strap a deer to the hood of your car, don't walk into a diner soaking wet in blood. We're talking about influencing the non-hunters. And some senators are non-hunters. Some local representatives are non-hunters. They don't know us. They don't think about us. They've never known a hunter. So that's kind of our first action that we do, is someone from our government affairs department says, like, hey, Senator so-and-so, I want to talk to you about your bill. Will you explain to me why you wrote it, what you're trying to do with it? And then say, like, this is how it impacts hunters. And a lot of times, a lot of the work that we do is rewriting bills. So we help write that, if they're like, oh, you can't shoot in the direction of a pet. You're like, okay, well, that's good. No one wants to shoot pets or near a pet or over a pet. But did you think about hunters and sporting dogs? No. Okay. So like, let's amend this bill to, add some verbiage that's going to work for hunters.
Do you guys
So
have like, a lot of lawyers on staff then too? Because I got to imagine the technicality of how you're putting these words together, if you're a lawyer, are critically important insofar as how they're going to be interpreted.
we have a little bit of everybody. So we have a lot of people who have just worked in different parts of the, legislature. A lot of people who have worked at different state senates. And then, yeah, a lot of smart folks. I have no idea what they do. They
Yeah,
tell
we
me
never know what to
when
say
they're
before
like, so the other cool thing about our company and the hard thing about my job is we can only talk about a tiny percentage of what we do and what we've done. So when we amend a bill, or there's a really bad bill and we convince someone to withdraw it, a lot of times they'll say like, okay, I wrote this bill, I proposed this bill because I felt pressure from these people or this organization or whatever. I'll withdraw it, but please don't drag me through the mud. Please don't shout through your megaphones, and put my name everywhere. And we don't. And we don't because we've been around for decades, and we don't because these are relationships, and
Yeah, reputation
this
is
is what we
currency.
do.
People forget that, and people forget like life is long. Relationships last a long time,
Yes.
especially if you treat them correctly and invest in them properly. Some of these people are going to be around for a long time, and they're going to graduate
Yeah.
into more prominent roles, likely because people tend to go upwards in their career, or sometimes laterally and so forth. So yeah, you certainly don't want to burn bridges and be like, F you, pal.
Yeah.
That guess who's never
So
going to help you again,
yeah. So that's the funny and sometimes challenging part about my job is, we really want to celebrate our wins, and talk about our wins. And when, we're a membership based organization, we're $35 a year. You can donate. We have a 501c3 and a C4, Sportsmen's Alliance and the Sportsmen's Alliance Foundation, tax deductible, just like anyone else. So we want to tell people this is where your membership dollars are going. This is what we're doing. This is what we're fighting. And this is when we're winning. but we can't always tell people when we've won. We'll do wrap ups like at the end of the quarter and at the end of the year and say,
So
we
a little
actively
passive,
monitored. Yeah. So like we actively monitored like 670 bills. We participated in 400 of them and we defeated 70 of them. But we're not going to say like Senator so-and-so, we called her and made her
you're not
withdraw
running
her
political
bill.
circles.
That's not our goal. So,
Yeah.
so that's kind of where my job comes in. And it's kind of funny where it's like, well,
to walk.
we do a lot of great things, but a lot of it's behind the scenes and it's kind of what we do.
It's hard to bring some of that stuff to service. And like there's like some brands on social media that are like Black Rifle Coffee or Free Range America or whatever. They're doing so many like content cool things. It's like, well, there's just so much going on social media across the board, let alone just our category, let alone your brand and so forth. So how do you make your thing something that people are going to care about? It's tough. It's tough to get people to, and it's hard to understand. Like you said, it's hard to know what some of these folks are even doing. So if I can't comprehend that, like how the hell am I even going to begin to articulate it in layman's terms and in a way that's going to like draw someone in? So I think you have your responsibility to the people that are paying or donating to have those newsletters that go out where there's recaps,
Well, it's kind of just knowing the mission statement of the organization. So like I've been a Ducks Unlimited committee member as long as I've been hunting, and it's like the Ducks Unlimited model is very simple. It's like we raise dollars to purchase acres. We employ biologists and, habitat specialists to clean up whatever needs to be cleaned up, burn what we need to burn, like restoration, and then it gets turned over. So Ducks Unlimited does not own any acreage. Like this is what we do. We raise $1, we purchase an acre, we turn it back over to the state, and it's like protected for everyone to use and for people to hunt. Like that's the goal. Or, like breeding grounds. That's their mission, and it's I think people get confused sometimes when they don't know the mission statement of the NGO that they're donating to or volunteering for. So it's similar to, there's a couple of other organizations like ours that does a lot of policy work, like SCI, like BHA, and people, will say, okay, well, where was your most recent river cleanup? And where did you, pick up trash in the local forest? And be like, what we do. So at Sportsmens Alliance, like we're not a chapter-based model. We don't have banquets. You can't, we don't have local chapters. We don't have state chapters, anything like that. Anyone who wants to organize a river cleanup, forest cleanup, repaint targets at an archery range, like by all means, like we're really happy and supportive of that. But we are 100%, we do legislative work, we do lobbying. That's what we do. So
that's good to know. People don't.
And we all work together. I mean, there's so
Yeah.
many of our organizations and we all work together, and that's our role. And then, Ducks Unlimited, that's their role. And Rocky Mountain Elk Foundation, we do a lot of work with. It's like, you have to specialize. Like you can't do everything or you're spread too thin. And so we do what we're really good at, and RMEF does what they kick butt at. And it really works, together really, really well.
Great job summing that up. I mean, I actually feel quite a bit more informed and educated now. I have such a lack of understanding of those things. And oftentimes we'll ask, like, who should we partner with? Who should we raise money with or for? Like, what brands are aligned with us and so forth? And maybe all of them, but different nuances or niches insofar as what their mission is and what they are equipped to do inside of their lane. Okay, well, let's lighten the mood here a little bit. We're at the top of the hour. I'd like to hear your okayest moment. I think you said you had one. I don't know what it is yet. Greg doesn't know what it is. And I'm excited for you to share it. So I'll let you do that, and then we'll kind of bring the plane in for a landing here.
My okayest moment. I don't know. I think I've had a lot of okay moments. I think a lot of
after all.
Okay moments, subpar moments. I think probably my most okay moment. I've only ever shot 2 bucks in my whole life. I don't draw I don't put in for a lot of buck tags. I don't hunt a lot of buck tags. I've moved a lot. As I mentioned, I have ADD. I want to go everywhere and hunt everything all the time. And so every year I kind of focus, every year my goal is to hunt one new state or one new species or both, which I've been really actively working on. And so hunting one tag, one species, one buck for a whole season, kind of hard for me to do. Kind of hard to do necessarily if you're, own property or you're not living in one place season. So yeah, I've only ever shot 2 bucks of anything in my whole life. So I guess that's okay. But as I was mentioning, in Wyoming, you can buy a buck tag for pronghorn for $270 or $370 or something, and you can buy a doe tag for 45 bucks. So I love to eat pronghorn, and I've shot a really nice pronghorn buck.
What'd you shoot it with?
270 gun
Nice.
rifle. Yeah.
Yep.
So but yeah, I was like, I shot a really nice buck. I shot another little less nice buck, and after that I'm like, I'm good with the $45 doe tag. So yeah, my first buck ever was a whitetail buck down in Texas, and I was down there at a ranch doing some consulting for some folks who were trying to get a TV show. And they were like, do you want to shoot a management buck? I was like, sure. So kind of drove me around the ranch, and they're like, do you want to shoot that one? Do you want to shoot that one? I was like, okay, this seems interesting. And I was like, I don't kind of want to do this. I'm like, can I just go out and find one stock and find it? And that's what I ended up doing. So I went kind of, I mean, it was not an exciting hunt. I mean, it was really cool because it was my first buck, but it was very much kind of, there was a bunch of bucks sitting by themselves, I don't know, a couple thousand yards away from a feeder. And I was like, okay. And I kind of belly crawled, I don't know, a couple hundred yards and pick one out that I like and shot it. So.
Well, you did. Yeah, no, that's, we like, I don't know.
Probably my most okay moment. So it's my first buck. I was like, this is exciting. It's my first time hunting in Texas. But as far as stories go, as far as memories and proud moments,
the number of things. So someone, I shared this on, silly TikTok the other day, and we do a weekly email, where this is the only place this stuff lives right now. And that's going to change soonish. We're going to put a little book together for the deer camp toilet, so to speak. But this one gentleman shared a story, and this is fun for me to tell here, I guess. I'm not going to do a great job. I'm not going to tell the full story, but essentially the cliff notes are, if you want to hear stories like this, you got to just go subscribe to our email. But this guy's wife made white chili for their deer camp. There's 10 guys, 2 cabins, and they went to one of the cabins to eat dinner. Everyone dispersed back to their respective cabins after the fact. And this pre-cooked chili turns out wasn't pre-cooked. So they heat up the microwave, ate it, and then at 1 a.m. or so, as this gentleman writes in, everyone had to use the bathroom at the same time. Well, there's only
distress,
right? And there was a problem. And then that happened throughout the course of the rest of the evening or night, all the way until the alarm went off about 4:30 to get up and go into the deer woods, to which they did. And that problem didn't go away yet. So they're in their
that
stands.
Makes for a very crappy day of hunting.
And they're doing the, not a pee-pee dance, but a poo-poo dance in their deer stands. And then the guy was like, oh, and then it hit me, and I couldn't climb down the tree fast enough. I'm running through the woods, stripping off my gear, holding my buttocks, running past other members in our deer camp as they're starting to peel off to do the same thing. And he goes, I run to the truck. He goes, one of his first years hunting, he grabbed the first thing he could find, some owner manual to maybe the vehicle, rips out a couple pages of that. Turns out it didn't do anything to clean him other than gave him a couple paper cuts on a few passes, and just made a schmeary, this is disgusting, right? Mess everywhere. And then their dad, because those 2 brothers, came with all of their gear, weapon, blaze orange this, blaze orange that, the whole works, right? Everything that you could think of. And that was the okayest moment that he shared, that they all had uncooked chili at deer camp.
That does not seem okay.
Oh my God. That was one of the ones I'm reading this. I'm like, I have yet to have ever heard anything like this before. Yet people are like, and they're good. They're like, these are embarrassing things that you're probably pissed about when it happened, but you can laugh at later, or you forgot this, or you didn't do that right, or whatever the heck happened. And the amount of people pouring these stories in now is just, it's a lot of fun. And if you're wondering where to do this, if you have something that feels that embarrassing and you're wondering where the hell you can, get this off your conscience, there's a tab on our website titled Moments, and that's what that is. It's a form submission where you can submit those stories, and currently we're sharing those on our weekly email. So if you're subscribed to our email, you're going to get a fun story in your inbox tomorrow, and I don't even know what it's going to be yet. It's not going to be that one because that was last week. So it's there's lots of moments like that I think folks have that they're quote unquote embarrassed by or whatever. But it's all in good fun, and sharing those stories, it's relatable, it's humble, it's a little bit of humility, and it goes to show that even if you're killing the biggest deer ever, look, man, you still have your moments. There's still something that went wrong at some point in time in your hunting career. You wouldn't have gotten to where you were if you didn't make mistakes, because that's how we learn the most. You're never going to eat uncooked chili again, right? Like, so.
Well, it's funny when I first, I don't know, I guess it's been over 10 years now, but when I first started writing articles, doing podcasts, everyone's questions were always, how hard is it to be a woman hunter? Why is it hard? Why is it challenging, or this and that? And after a certain point, I just got really, really sick of those questions. And people would go, what's the hardest part about being a female hunter? And they'd go, peeing. They'd be like, what are you talking about? And I'm like, peeing. Every time you pee, you have to announce to everyone, people you know, people you don't know, that you're peeing. You're pheasant hunting. You all get out of the truck. You're like, parked by a ditch. You're like, okay, can I go pee in the ditch without announcing to everyone in all 3 trucks that I'm going to pee? And you're like Russian roulette, like, hi, everyone I know and I don't know. I'm going to be peeing back here, so don't come by. I'm peeing.
Yeah, that would be challenging.
Peeing. Yeah, you're on a boat, duck hunting on a boat in the middle of the ocean in the winter. Really fun for peeing.
It's really hard if you're a female. It's hard enough if you're a dude time on a boat,
Yeah.
like Michigan, the waves are rocking. You're like, oh man, I'm gonna fall in. Trying to.
So yeah, that's about.
There's
that's
like
peeing, man. That's the only thing hard about being a female hunter. The rest of it's awesome.
Have you heard of the Go Girl? It's trademark Go Girl. It's like a
Shiwi. There's
yeah,
a lot.
yeah, whatever. Yeah, I don't know. There's things I don't know if those things I've seen them around, right? And I'm like, I wonder if they actually help or work. Seems like a good idea. I have no clue.
Yeah, not really helpful for chest waders. So
that's a good point.
There's no.
Well, you don't eat uncooked chili the night before and wearing chest waders. You're screwed.
That's where the oven was introduced.
Those ones stay in the swamp, man. I wouldn't take those home with me. Gross. Hey, thanks for
the stories that make it fun.
Yeah, no, that we can all look back and laugh. We appreciate you hanging out with us. It's good to meet you, talk with you. I mean, for folks that are interested in learning more, either about Sportsmen's Alliance or just like from you, because you're a wealth of knowledge, where can you direct people to go?
Yeah, well, we're on social media, Sportsmen's Alliance on Facebook, Sportsmen's All on Instagram and Twitter. And if you want to follow my random wandering shenanigans, I'm Courtney with Freckles on Instagram. So lots of bad pictures of good food, and yeah, who knows what.
Where can people see some of your writing? We talked about that, right? Do you have anything new coming out that you can talk about, or anything that just is fresh off the press?
Ooh, yeah, I have an article coming out in, I think, the next issue of Wildfowl magazine, hunt I did up in Canada last year. And I have an article about a company called the Duck Boat Company that's based here on Cape Cod, coming out in the next catalog for, one of the waterfowl magazines. So
cool. That's awesome. Watch out for that stuff. Well, thanks again. We're going to end the live broadcast. Folks that tuned in, commented, and so forth, we always appreciate you guys and gals jumping into the comment section. No callers on this episode. I suspect that'll change as we get closer to the season. It's always fun to have people actually call in. But yeah, if we ever want to have you back on as new things are happening with Sportsmen's Alliance or in your career, like stay in touch, and we'll end the live broadcast for now.
See ya.
Cool.